You're wandering through some store overwhelmed by flickering screens and taglines that feel like they're yelling at you. Neo QLE Quantum Matrix OLED Evo XDR Pro. You stare at the rows of TVs and quietly realize you don't know what half of these words mean, and somehow every screen says it's the best. You press your palm on the cool glass of one. Suddenly, childhood flashes back, watching Saturday cartoons on a boxy tube TV with your legs curled like vines under you. Those weighed more than a refrigerator, and they buzzed if you sat too close. Now, screens are thinner than your phone and brighter than your future. At least that's what the tags say. But here's the actual truth. Most of it is branding. Some of it is innovation. And very little of it explains how it feels to live with these TVs every night once the store sparkle dies out. This story will not with tech jargon, with clarity, with honesty, with the kind of language that makes sense. When you're tired under artificial lights, searching for something that feels like a smart decision, not a gamble. So, let's pull apart this industry's glowing veil. Not to ruin the magic, but to understand where it comes from. Start at the basics. Back when the core display tech was just LCDs, liquid crystal displays. Back then, the screens had a simple job: use crystals to block or allow light. But they couldn't make light on their own, which meant they needed a backlight behind them. First, it was fluorescent tubes. Then came LED TVs, or more accurately, LED backlit LCDs. Brands just started calling them LED TVs because, well, it sounded newer. So, yes, if you've got an LED TV from the last 10 years, it's still really an LCD panel, just with white LED lights shining from behind. Here's where it gets interesting. LED TVs could be lit from the edges, that's called edge lit, or from behind the panel, that's called direct lit, or full array. Edge lit TVs stay slim, but can suffer from uneven lighting. You've seen it before. When one side of the screen looks a touch brighter during dark scenes, full-array backlit models, they get more consistent lighting and the ability to dim certain zones. That makes your dark scenes darker, your bright scenes brighter, and the whole thing closer to what filmmakers intend. So, if you're looking at a regular LED TV these days, that's the entry point, the baseline, and it's not bad. It's better than what most homes had just 5 years ago by a long shot. But here's where things forked. The color war began, quantum dots stepped in, microscopic crystals just floating in between the LED light and the screen. When light hits them, they glow like fireflies in colors so pure that even high-end cameras have trouble capturing them. That's what gave birth to QLED, Samsung's branding for it, and Nano-L, ULED, and other equally mysterious names. But what matters is this. Quantum dot TVs are still LED TVs underneath. The dots are color boosters, enhancers, not light makers. So when people tell you QLED versus OLED, it's an unfair fight. QLED is a type of LCD. OLED is something else entirely. Let's get into that slowly because this is where the air starts to feel different, sharper somehow. In OLED, every pixel is its own tiny light. No backlight, no filters, just pure emotion projected from millions of microscopic sources working together to deliver what no LCD ever could. When a pixel goes black on an OLED, it turns off literally. No light leaks, no glow, no gray, just silence and light form. That's why when you watch a movie on OLED in the right room, it feels like the closest you've come to cinema at home. Not because of its specs on paper, but because it leaves nothing in the way of the image. It doesn't shout. It whispers the truth of the scene. But OLED isn't perfect. You've probably heard concerns. It's not as bright, especially in rooms flooded with sunlight. That matters. If you're watching sports on a Sunday and the sun is ripping across your living room, OLED might struggle. And yes, there's talk of burn-in when brand logos or HUDs from games leave faint ghost marks from too much repetition. These issues are rarer now. Modern OLEDs come with pixel shifting, refresh systems, and smarter safeguards. Still, it's a concern, especially if your use case is varied. And then the response came not from OLED engineers, but from the LCD world once more. Not content with being outshone. They shrank their LEDs, added thousands of local dimming zones instead of tens or dozens. These new warriors were called Mini LED TVS. Imagine a backlight packed with pinheads of light, individually controllable, reacting dynamically to the image on screen. More precision, less blooming, deeper contrast. No, it's not OLED, but done well, it gets frighteningly close, and it gets brighter, much brighter. That's where you'd start hearing phrases like peak brightness of 2000 nits, high contrast with zero burn-in, OLED-like performance on LCD infrastructure. But specs only tell part of the story. Mini TVs are for the people who want OLED feels without OLED risks. The folks with big windows, long Netflix sessions, maybe even gaming marathons where static elements stay for hours. And now in 2025, we've hit a strange place in TV tech where every category is strong, every option has evolved, and the real problem isn't what's good. It's untangling what's worth it for you. There's no best technology. Not really. Not anymore. There's just the tech that makes sense for your life. The size of your room, the way the light falls at 5 p.m., the kind of stories you like to watch, the people you watch them with, and beneath every acronym, every label stuck on factory-fresh plastic. That's the thing they can't sell you, that sense, the instinct that this screen belongs with you. Keep that close because over the next few years, it's going to get noisier than ever. MicroLED, OLED, MLA, quantum nanowell, RGB laser backlight. They're just words. But underneath, there's a quiet fight between glow and shadow, between marketing and meaning, between wanting the best and knowing what you actually need. And that is where this story truly begins. It's easy to mistake glow for clarity. TV stores bank on that. The lights, the vivid loops of rainforest footage, the surreal 8K nature scenes you'll never find on Netflix, and that gut punch color popping off the showroom wall. Someone's job is to make you fall for it on first glance. But here's what no tag will tell you. Most of those TVs are using presets so drenched in saturation, it's almost offensive to the film itself. Motion smoothing turned on by default. Colors so boosted skin looks radioactive. Over-sharpened edges, static contrast ratios, promising depth that vanishes the moment you get it home. And switch on your actual content. The gap between wow in the store and lives well in your home is wider than people think. And that's why asking better questions matters now more than ever. Because this year, 2025, the game just changed again and quietly. Now we need to talk about something that sounds like sci-fi if you haven't been watching the headlines. MicroLED, the tech that promises to combine the natural brightness of LEDs with the perfect contrast of OLED. To understand MicroLED, step into metaphor. Imagine a city where every building has its own power, light source, and identity. Self-contained, self-lit. That's MicroLED, where each pixel is a microscopic LED emitting its own color and light. No filters, no backlights, just millions of independent pixels firing in perfect coordination. Suddenly, the dream is tangible. The deep blacks of OLED, the searing peak brightness of Mini LED, the durability of inorganic compounds with none of OLED's risk of burn-in. Except here's the part the glossy keynote slides don't linger on. You probably can't afford one, and even if you could, it likely won't fit through your front door. Right now, the smallest MicroLED TVs available to consumers are over 100 inches. Most of them aren't sold in normal stores. Some aren't even shipped like normal TVS. They're assembled during installation like a piece of high-end art or a tech sculpture. Samsung, LG, and Heinz are all racing to figure out how to shrink prices, shrink sizes, and scale production. But in 2025, it's still early. Heard of Samsung's Micro RGB? Think of it as a MicroLED variant using pure red, green, and blue diodes instead of layering filters or trickery. The result? Colors that hit 100% of the BT 2020 color space, which is a standard so far ahead of most streaming content. It feels like a flex, not a feature. But for all its achievements, the 115-inch version costs more than a luxury car. And the moment that stays with you isn't the color itself. It's the reminder the tech always gets here before the content does. That's the cost of early adoption. You're buying screens meant to showcase visions we've barely filmed yet. Movies mastered in HDR still often use 1000 nits as the target. MicroLEDs blaze past 4000, sometimes 10,000. But where's the scene that deserves that brightness level? Who's creating worlds for light that strong? The technology outpaces the art until one day the two finally meet again. And this is the liminal space you're shopping in right now, waiting rooms of future brilliance. Because while the flagship screens are flirting with literal eye damage, the rest of the industry isn't coasting. They're rethinking what makes images feel better, not just look better on paper. Let's talk about MLA OLED. That stands for micro lens array. And no, it's not a sales gimmick. It's how OLED is staying competitive in this brightness war without losing its soul. See, MLA is a secret army of billions of minuscule lenses invisible to the eye, arranged over the OLED surface. Their job? Redirect lost light that would otherwise spill and scatter inside the panel. Recycle it. Focus it outward. The result? Suddenly, OLEDs that once capped at 800 to 1000 nets are now dancing above 1500, even closing in on 2000 without burning out their cores. It's a resurrection, especially for those who love OLED black levels, but hated how they faded in bright rooms. Now those same displays stand tall next to windows. Still prefer warm movie nights? Keep the brightness lower. The option's there, and that's the quiet revolution control. You aren't forced to choose between peaks and shadows. You finally get both. And that's when it clicks. We are no longer chasing more. We're chasing balance. Once the race was about brightness. Everyone just wanted a screen that could punch through daylight glare. Then it was contrast. Black so deep, they swallowed galaxies. After that, motion, refresh rates, latency, a screen that could keep up with your sons playing Spider-Man 2 on PS5 or you binge watching The Last of Us at 200 a.m. In 2025, it's about harmony between technology and intention, brilliance without hurting your eyes, realism without nearing uncanny valley, color that evokes instead of impresses. So where does that leave you? Standing in aisle 7 with a clerk pointing you towards something called ULDX. What do you actually look for? Skip the specs for a second. Ask yourself, what time of day do you watch most? Do you need wide viewing angles, or is your couch dead center? Do you care about Dolby Vision, HDR 10+, or won't notice the difference anyway? Are you a gamer or just a movie lover who watches slow dramas under warm blankets? Those answers tell you more than any comparison chart ever will. You don't buy a panel, you buy a feeling, a way the characters show up for you on their worst day, the way nights in Paris shimmer under rain, the sharpness of an eye twitch in a close-up that decides the whole film. That's what your screen delivers or doesn't, and you can't box that in spec sheets. Here's one more subtle evolution: AI picture processing. Sounds sketchy, isn't always. Whether it's LG's Alpha 11 chip or Sony's XR cognitive processor or Samsung's NQ8 AI Gen 3, companies are relying more on machine intelligence to interpret content, the way we process human vision, not just applying contrast, but recognizing what you're watching. Is it a face, a tree, a fast-moving ball? The processor adapts clarity, sharpness, brightness, sometimes in real time per scene, sometimes per frame, and in the best cases, it's invisible, just better, just smoother, more plausible, but not always. Too much AI upscaling, and the image starts to feel like a painting of a photograph of a movie. Fake sharpness, stiff expressions, faltering line work. If a screen ever makes you feel uneasy in a way you can't explain, that's overprocessing. Turn it off. You're allowed. See, that's the paradox. The more complex TVs become, the more you have to protect your own instincts. Because inside the showroom, every screen will look perfect, but only one's going to feel right at home. One of the strangest things about TV shopping is that everyone assumes it's about screens, but it never really is. It's about rooms and who sits in them. It's about where light comes through the windows at 4:40 p.m. It's about how loud someone chews popcorn beside you, or how quiet the night gets an hour after your neighbors fall asleep. It's about softness and silence and what a screen does to both. 2025 has given us more TV options, more types, more terms than at any point in history. And strangely, that makes choosing harder. It used to be small, medium, or big. Now it's OLED, QLED, NeoLED, mini-LED, MicroLED, MLA, OLED, quantum dot, nano L, QD-OLED, RGB, micro, backlight, master drive, and yes, still LCDs underneath many of them. The truth, that TV wall in your store is a kind of illusion. Every screen is fighting for your eyes, not your soul. And the most impressive aren't always the ones that live well with you over time. Still, the tech is beautiful, some of it breathtaking. Let's pause for a second on OLED's cousin, the one called QD-OLED. It sounds like alphabet soup, but in simple language, it's a marriage. Quantum dots meet OLED. The emotional depth of OLED self-lit pixels meets the wild exaggerated color vibrance of QD filtering. What happens next? You get purity, brightness, a texture you almost want to run your fingers across. Sony and Samsung have each built their own paths toward it. And in late 2024, LG joined the fray. Compared to standard OLED, these QD-OLED panels glow cleaner. Whites are whiter, reds don't cross into orange, and blue finally stops being heavy-handed. But it's not just color accuracy. It's about dimension. These TVs, especially at 55 or 65 inches, stop looking like panels and start looking like light windows. That almost magical thing where the edge disappears and you're just inside the film. But again, trade-offs. As with everything holy in tech, brightness comes at a cost. QD panels can consume more power. They run warmer. They're still more expensive than comparable mini LED sets. And even though they manage heat far better than early OLEDs, some professional users say they can still see wear with static images over hundreds of hours. The takeaway, watch what you want. Just don't overthink it. In 2025, almost every major TV technology has matured to the point where flaws don't ruin the experience anymore. Just shape it. And that's kind of the final lie the industry hopes you'll keep believing, that there is a perfect TV. There isn't. There's just the one that feels right for your light, your walls, your kind of stillness when the opening credits hit. That could be a base-level LED with decent contrast turned down to warm mode, playing 1080p classics in a bedroom with blackout curtains. Or it could be a 77-inch MLA OLED wall-mounted with AI brightness smoothing dim scenes for comfort, watched by someone who cries every third episode of The Bear. It's not the logos that matter. It's how it changes you to watch on that screen. And maybe that's the thing no spec list will ever capture. Because once the box is open, you stop comparing and start living with it. You'll hardly think about the brightness number unless there's glare. You won't talk about local dimming unless something's blooming. What you'll remember is this: how your kitchen catches the reflection of daylight on your black TV screen. How your friend's face lit up when you streamed your childhood favorite. How your heart broke just right in the final scene of episode 6. That's display tech at its highest form. When it disappears. When the tool becomes invisible and all you're left with is feeling. Still, it's okay to ask hard questions about longevity, picture processing, support for true Dolby Vision, not half-baked knockoffs, whether you can calibrate color without voiding warranties, whether HDMI ports are 2.1, not just labeled that way, but functionally open to their full bandwidth. Ask the questions, because behind every TV brand pushing new tech, there's often older tech in a prettier box. Sometimes the only thing new is a sticker. Sometimes a panel's made in the same factory, just with different firmware. Dig deep if you care. Never assume newer means better. Never assume buzzwords mean features. And never ever buy based on store demos. Alone. The goal isn't buying the future. The goal is finding something that meets you where you are now and still feels good in 5 years. When your tastes have changed, your furniture's moved, or your streaming apps have gone extinct and re-emerged under brand new names. You want clarity more than novelty, balance over hype, and a screen that, when it's turned off, doesn't leave you with regret. Because here's the quiet irony of display technology in 2025. We've never had more pixels, more brightness, more depth. But it's what doesn't show up on the screen that will stay with you. The reflection of someone you love sitting beside you. The echo of a line that felt too close to home. The realization halfway through a scene that you're seeing it differently now. Not just because the colors are sharper, but because you've changed. TVS don't just show content, they catch us in our transformations. And maybe the real tech leap isn't AE's pattern recognition or 10,000 nits of extreme brightness. Maybe it's you becoming a smarter, softer kind of viewer, less impressed by glow, more attuned to story, and entirely willing to ask, does this screen actually matter, or do I just want one that doesn't get in the way? Whatever you land on, remember they'll try to sell you features, but none of those specs know what matters in your life. Only you do. So trust that. Choose the one that serves your stories, fits your space, and disappears when it should. Because that's the best kind of tech. One that doesn't shout, "Look at me." Just one that works. They want one that's smart enough to work. Before you go, hit that subscribe button. We don't just review, we expose. From the hype to the hidden failures to the tricks brands hope you'll never question. So hit like, tap subscribe, and join thousands of smart shoppers who already know. Smart spending starts with asking smarter questions.